Students who have just joined in, you just need to download the drill which is there in chat. Attempt the first three questions only. See, the basic agenda of this session was to give you an idea about the CSAT examination and the right method of preparing for it, whether you are taking in uh, professional help from a particular institute or whether you are doing self preparation. But I got a lot of queries about a holistic idea about the UPSC exam process and how the CSAT examination fits into the whole thing as such. This is the reason why I decided to add a few things for the initial part of this whole webinar. So, we look at the introduction to the UPSC exam process. We look at the role of CSAT in the UPSC examination. We'll check the 6 subjects we are tested in CSAT, what kind of questions come, what is tested in case of CSAT in an open manner or an overt manner, and what is tested in a covert or a hidden manner. Moreover, we learn strategies for cracking different type of questions and what attitudinal changes you need to bring in so that you perform better in case of this particular examination. And this examination does not become a problem for you. Also, we look at long-term and short-term preparation for CSAT and how to balance your preparation with respect to GS Paper 1, Paper 2, your mains examination, and to a certain extent the interview also. Plus, how can we help you in terms of preparation for the CSAT? So, during the course of this particular session, I want you also to understand certain critically important things. Renuka, please do not do that. The first thing is we look at understanding the process of UPSC preparation. We'll see what parameters really get tested in case of GS prelims exam and the mains exam. We'll also look at differences in preparation for GS subjects with respect to how school or college exam preparation is done. There's a clear difference between how you study for a school or a college examination and the way of studying for your GS subjects. Moreover, we'll look at parameters that are tested in CSAT exam and difference in preparation for CSAT examination subjects with respect to your GS subjects' preparation. Also, we'll see how to balance preparation between the 3 papers, which is your prelims GS paper 1, your CSAT, and the main exam, the timelines which have to be maintained, even if you're looking at a 2-year process before the examination, and understand how UPSC preparation is pretty different from your Indian school or college examinations. Moreover, we've got to synchronize the preparation for the various parts of this whole process. Plus, we'll develop an understanding of what is tested in a covert or an overt manner in case of this examination. So, broadly, if you look at it, the UPSC examination has a clear preliminary process and a main examination process, which is subjective by nature. The civil services preliminary examination is completely objective by nature. Students who clear the first stage, they moved on to the next stage, which is subjective and comprises of your main examination plus your interview as such. Look at 3 aspects. For students, one aspect is the clear timelines of the examination, which are the prelims examination happening in May 2025, the main examination happening in August, and then your personal interview, they start in February, March, even they extend at times till April. But if you look at the result which we have, then let's see. If we look at the last result which has been declared and for which all details are present with us, then there were 11 lakh people almost who went in for registering for the UPSC examination. Out of them, 5,61,962 students did not even have the guts to go for the examination, which means although 11.35 lakh students went in for registering for the examination, but 5.6 lakh students did not even go to the examination hall. Because by the time the examination came, they had realized that they had really not prepared well for this examination and they did not want to waste an attempt as such. Out of these students who went in for giving the examination, there were about 5.73 lakh. And out of 5.73 lakh students, the first thing which is tested in case of UPSC examination is your prelims paper 2. Students who clear this prelims paper 2, only they are permitted to move on ahead to the next stage. As a result, out of 5.7 lakh students, only 1,65,300 students went in for clearing the CSAT paper, which means roughly 4 lakh students went in for getting rejected in case of CSAT paper. Out of all of these 4 lakh students who got rejected in CSAT, there must have been a lot of students who possibly had prepared very properly for their prelims paper 1, the GS paper 1, and they may even be ready for taking their mains examination. At the same time, all of these students made the mistake of not planning their preparation in a balanced manner. As a result, in case of CSAT paper 2, they got rejected. Now, this is a troublesome situation. Also, there's a clear 70% rejection rate as far as CSAT paper 2 is concerned. So, out of 11.3 lakh students, a total of 1 lakh 65,000 actually clear the first stage of the examination, which is the CSAT paper. These students go in for prelims paper 1, which means the paper 1 is now checked. If they have not cleared CSAT paper, then this prelims paper 1 performance will not even be checked. So when their performance was checked, about 13,000 went in for clearing the prelims paper 1, and they moved on ahead to the mains examination, in which about 2,529 students cleared it, and they were moved on ahead to the personal interview stage. And out of all of these students, there were a total of 923 students who finally got placed. So, out of all of the rejection stages, the first rejection stage is your CSAT or your prelims paper 2. Students who clear this move on to the prelims paper 1, and these students who clear prelims paper 1 and are invited for the mains examination, out of them, only a few move on ahead to the interview stage. But out of the whole process, the greatest amount of rejection of candidates happens in case of your CSAT paper, roughly 70%. And a lot of students who get rejected in case of CSAT are students who have actually spent too much of time in preparing for the GS paper, and they have ignored the requirements of the CSAT examination. That is something which makes the CSAT examination vitally important for all of you. So, these are the important figures for you. These are the reasons why you need to prepare to the right extent in case of CSAT paper 2. Now, if you look at your examination in a holistic manner, you have a prelims paper, a mains examination, and a personality round. The prelims examination has clear two papers of GS paper 1 and paper 2, which is CSAT. Each of these papers has 200 marks, and students who clear CSAT paper, their paper 1 is checked, and based upon their performance, they move on to the mains examination. In case of the mains examination, also there's a qualifying situation, and that is that there are two papers of language which they have to clear. They have to qualify these papers. Now, out of these two papers in which they just need passing marks, the problem is that as far as the Indian language paper is concerned, students who come from a CBSE or an ICSE school background, when they look at the previous year Indian language papers which they are going to give, they realize that they are not very well prepared for them. As a result, they put in some amount of hard work. As a result, they can clear the Indian language paper. This paper normally does not create a problem because students prepare for it. But as far as the compulsory English paper is concerned, this is a paper when students look at previous year question papers, they get an impression this is something which I already know. As a result, they ignore this particular paper, do not prepare for it, and get rejected. So a lot of students who get rejected in the mains examination, they get rejected because they cannot clear the compulsory English paper. This is a big shocking news for a lot of students. It is a shocking aspect, shocking data for teachers as well, that something which is considered to be super easy actually becomes responsible for rejection of students. After students have cleared these two papers, paper A and paper B, which are language papers, then they move on to the next stage, wherein they have an essay paper, which is of 250 marks, plus there are GS paper 1, 2, 3, and 4, and there are the two optional subject papers. Both of them have 250 marks. Then students who clear the mains examination, they move on ahead to the next round, which is the personal interview, which has got a total of 275 marks. Now, apart from this information, which you already would know, definitely, there is some other thing which you have to take care of, and that is, as far as GS, this whole process is concerned, the first level of rejection which happens for students happens in case of CSAT. About 70% of the students get kicked out of the whole process, they get weeded out. Students who clear this, their paper 1 becomes important, and they attempt paper 1, and if they qualify it, they move on ahead to the mains examination. In case of the mains examination, the main reason why a lot of students get rejected is not because of the Indian language paper, which is seemingly more difficult, but they get rejected because of their performance in case of the compulsory English paper. And then their rest of the papers really become important. But out of all of these papers, remember, good students, if you look at them, they actually end up getting almost the same marks in case of GS paper 1, paper 2, and paper 3. So in terms of strategic importance, although all of these papers have equal marks, but if all the good students are getting almost the same kind of marks in paper 1, paper 2, and paper 3, then they really do not provide an edge to a student, although you need to get as many marks as possible. At the same time, there are certain other papers in which there's a huge range of marks which students end up getting. So where do students get a greater range of marks? That edge is provided by the essay paper, and it is provided by your paper 4, where students can end up getting a very good score. So the reason why students get selected in the mains examination and they move on ahead to the next stage, which is the interview, is not equally distributed with respect to the subjects, but essay paper, your GS paper 4, and your two subject papers, the optional papers, they are vitally important for you to give you an edge, which helps you move on ahead to the interview stage. So these are four papers which should not be ignored at all. A lot of students end up preparing for the essay paper at a later stage, thinking that they need to get all of their knowledge nuggets first in place, and after they've prepared for the GS, then automatically they will start preparing for the essay paper, which requires a certain amount of background general studies knowledge. And by that time, it is too late for them to learn the mechanics of preparing for the essay paper. GS paper 4 again is an area in which a lot of content is not available in the open market as such. So whether it is teachers or books, GS paper 4 is a slightly ignored area, and we normally do not have very good teachers for this particular part who can propel your scores further. So you'll have to put in an extra effort here. And optional subjects, yes, we've got great teachers, although we don't have great books for the optional subject papers as such. So please take care that when you prepare, although you're going to try to get a 250 score in every paper, at the same time, remember, getting a very high score in case of essay, in case of paper 4, as compared to other students, and in case of your optional subjects, is something which will ensure that you move on ahead to the next stage, which is the interview stage. At this particular stage, I want to make clear a certain aspect of this whole preparation. Although we can have a topper of UPSC who has prepared on his or her own, but professional help from a particular institute or a good set of teachers is something which helps you a lot in the whole process. So if I look at self-preparation for a student, then self-preparation is time consuming. You will have to reinvent the wheel and do everything yourself, and you'll not have anyone to guide you to make things easier for you. You'll have to go in for making mistakes, and you'll have to learn from those mistakes. So there's a trial and error situation out here. And because of the limited number of attempts, and if you don't get selected in a particular attempt, it has a psychological effect upon you. That's the reason why you cannot afford to give 4-5 attempts as such if you are eligible for it. Moreover, if you do self-preparation, there is no monitoring which can happen properly. As a result, this creates a problem. Plus, tests and assessments is something which are difficult to arrange if you're doing self-preparation. Plus, you need a lot of motivation if you're preparing on your own. And a lot of people cannot maintain their cool when they're preparing absolutely upon their own. But if I look at taking professional help, then things are slightly different out here. This saves time because teachers and books and institutes go in for giving you a clear idea about what is to be prepared. As a result, it saves time. You end up getting prepared study content. You have experts to help you, people who only worry about a single subject. They look after that whole subject for you, and you end up getting better monitoring if you join a particular good institute. You get better tests and assessments, and you get a lot of motivation by interacting with your peers. During this whole preparation for civil services, remember, your friends and colleagues play an even bigger and important role as compared to your teachers. Your teachers can make things easier for you. Your teachers can inspire you to work harder. Your teachers can save a lot of your time and improve upon your attitude while you're preparing. But in order to remain motivated throughout this preparation, you need somebody on whom you can bounce your ideas. And that is where your colleagues really help. If you have classmates, if you're connected to people who are also preparing for civil services, then that is a big help in the whole process as such. So let's understand, why do we have this kind of process for UPSC in terms of its whole three-stage examination. Before 90s, India used to be a different kind of a country. India was a country which was comparatively poor. We had a huge class which was poor. We had a very thin middle class. We had a very thin crust of people who were actually rich. And after the economic liberalization happened in 1990s. Now a new situation came wherein a lot of money got poured into the country. The country grew economically, and when the country grew economically, the country also started facing newer kind of challenges. People had become richer, and people were becoming more corrupt for the first time because they had money on their hands. So almost everyone got chances of becoming rich by valid legal reasons and by illegal methods also. Through the challenge before UPSC around 2010 was basically to attract the brightest and the talented personnel towards public service. And after an open market economy of the 1990s, it unlocked a lot of job opportunities for an individual. As a result, a lot of talented students went in for management instead of civil services. So the UPSC Commission wanted to draw the bright and talented individuals in civil service jobs who were getting attracted towards the private sector. And UPSC also realized that they required smarter people, and they required the kind of people who normally get attracted towards an MBA program or they get attracted towards the corporate world. This was another realization which the UPSC had. So, in order to select the right candidate for public service, they wanted people who had a lot of substance, who had integrity and uprightness for the jobs in government. And the reason why this realization came was because a lot of civil servants also had started becoming corrupt during that time period. And this was the reason why there was clearly a need for a component of ethics testing. So they went in for an objective caselet and a case study approach, which was basically a psychometric test component as such in case of the examination. And your GS paper 4 got introduced. So they also wanted a selection process which was more inclusive, more participatory. They wanted all kinds of people to try their hand at the UPSC examination so that we end up having a lot of diversity inside the civil services, and this would be more creative and it would be more productive for the UPSC as such. So the examination which had to be created had to be unbiased. For an examination to be more unbiased, it must have a major component which is objective by nature and should not be subjective. So UPSC also realized that scaling was creating a lot of subjectivity and problem. For people who are not very clear about scaling, always understand that people who take an optional subject such as mathematics, they have a chance of preparing properly, and they can prepare their whole syllabus in such a proper manner that they can end up getting a 100% score. But if you look at a student who's preparing history as an optional subject, this student can never get a 100% score, because even if this student ends up writing the most ideal of answers, according to UPSC also, in case of humanities, teachers do not have a tendency to give a 100% score to any student. So the scores of students who come from humanities are normally increased up, which is called as scaling up. And the scores of students who come from an objective subject background, their scores are decreased down. This is called as scaling down of scores. UPSC did not want this at all. This is the reason why all of those changes started coming in effect in the year 2011. So, if I start with GS preparation, let's first of all understand the basic differences between your preparation for your school or college examinations and the way the GS is prepared. If you look at your school or college exam syllabus preparation, then you have a very clearly defined syllabus. You have great, excellent, specialized books available. You have guides available. You have the same perception, which means the way your teacher thinks the answer has to be written, in the same manner, the examiner who's going to check your answer copies is going to think. So whatever the teacher teaches you in class is 100% relevant for your examination. Moreover, your personality and your perception and your way of thinking does not matter in case of school or college examinations. What matters is, have you given the right answer according to the syllabus and according to whatever the teacher has taught you. Plus, this whole set of school and college examinations, they are basically a game of knowledge. And you have something called an expository genre of answers, and you just have to expose what knowledge you have, which helps you give an answer. But if you compare it with your GS preparation, then the story is entirely different. Here you only get a very indicative syllabus. The syllabus is not very clear. If you talk about books and guides, there are no specialized books and guides which are available in the market. And although books and guides are available in the market, these are not by good teachers. They are not effective ones, which means you have to use college books and adapt them according to the requirement of the GS preparation. Plus, it is not whatever is written inside the books that has to be written in the examination, because something called as a UPSC perception or an administrative perspective is required when you write the answers. Plus, this examination, its answers which are ideal depend upon your personality and your perception also. So it is not whatever it is written in the books that you need to write down in case of the examination. Plus, you need to change your way of thinking and you need to write answers in something which is called a UPSC style of answering questions. The focus is not 100% upon knowledge, but it is upon using knowledge in order to answer questions according to a certain method. And this is the elusive part in case of GS preparation for UPSC. This is the reason why a lot of students during their preparation get frustrated. They attend classes, they study from books, and then they realize that despite preparing from books, they still are not getting a perfect score. Pama, I'm going to answer your question, don't worry. So if you look at your stages of GS preparation, now here I'm talking about GS paper 1 and the mains examination, and I will even consider the interview as part of the whole thing as such. The first step is that you need to have an excellent command of English language. Believe me, if you're taking this examination with English as a medium of instruction, then you'll have to take care that whatever is your present level of English language command, that is not enough for you to understand whatever the teachers teach you in the classes. That is not enough for you to understand whatever is written in the books. So you need to improve your vocabulary, you need to improve your grammar skills, you need to be somebody who's a good reader. Only then you will be able to understand and remember. And the story does not get over by understanding and remembering. You will have to change whatever you already know in terms of knowledge according to the requirements of the UPSC perspective, and then you have to write answers. Now, this is the most ignored part of the preparation. A lot of students come to me and they say that although we've been attending classes, I've been revising from my books, but I realize that there's some problem with my brain because of which I cannot remember. This is a very common complaint which I end up getting from a lot of students. Can somebody turn on their mic and tell me whether they're struggling with remembering whatever they're learning for the GS papers? A yes or a no? Have you doubted your memory and your brain when you started preparing for GS? Yes, no?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
It's a very common complaint. And one reason for that complaint is that because you are not very great at English language, that's the reason why even if the teacher teaches you the right things, even if the books have the right things written down, you are unable to understand it because you've not understood it 100%. That's the reason why you cannot remember it. And because you cannot remember enough of it, when you write answers, your teacher gives you a reminder and tells you that these were the things which were missing inside it. You get a feeling that, yes, I think I knew this, but I don't know why I did not write all that stuff in the answers. So, excellent command of English language is something which is really required. In the UPSC preparation industry, institutes do not offer this first step at all. And this creates a lot of problem. And once you have started your coaching, then it is too late for you to start concentrating upon this particular aspect. Let's look at the second part. Once you have an excellent command on English language, which is the first requirement, then you need to be somebody who regularly goes in for reading the relevant newspapers and magazines. Now, relevant newspaper in the end is the Hindu. There is nothing else which matches the requirement of the Hindu. But I want you to remind one more thing about the Hindu. I travel around the country. I take classes in Bangalore, I take classes in Delhi, in Rajasthan, etc. And I realize that the same newspaper, the Hindu, its Bangalore edition is not good enough. In Bangalore, the Hindu is similar to the Times of India present in Northern India. Times of India is a very acceptable kind of a newspaper. People do not mind reading the Times of India. And what really happens is that if I talk about Northern India, then in Northern India, people who read the Times of India for the first time, they understand most of it. As a result, they feel happy that this particular newspaper is not giving them any embarrassing reminders. As a result, they read the Times of India again the next day, and they would seek reading the Times of India. Times of India is something which soothes your ego. But anyone who has read the Hindu for the first time would face two problems. First problem which they will face is that they will realize that the English language used in case of the Hindu is something which they don't understand. So this they get one kick in the back because of that, which gives them a feeling that I don't know English, and they also get a feeling that I don't know about my own country. All of you, when you must have started reading the Hindu as a newspaper, these two problems you all of you must have faced. But in the end, whatever appears in the Hindu is what is going to help you in the examination. So even if somebody gives you name of some other newspaper, uh, don't accept it. The only newspaper which works for people is the Hindu, and I will preferably say the North India edition of the Hindu, the Delhi edition of the Hindu. So for students from South India, please go in for using the Delhi edition of the Hindu, which is actually customized to the requirement of civil servants and for people who are aspirants for civil services. In terms of magazines, there are two important magazines out here. One magazine is Frontline. Frontline comes from the same publishing group as the Hindu. As a result, it's a great magazine. And whatever you read in the Hindu every day, Frontline magazine is going to summarize why all of those things happened. And another good thing about the Frontline magazine is that Frontline gives you an idea about which language you have to use when you're writing answers of the mains examination. So a lot of students come to me asking me what is the UPSC style of writing answers. Then that UPSC style of writing answers is something which is present inside the Frontline as a magazine. This is the biggest advantage of studying from the Frontline. Rouse also goes in for releasing a magazine called as Focus. Focus is a magazine in which a lot of teachers contribute exactly according to the requirement of the UPSC. So it is another indispensable magazine which you should be referring to. Apart from this, there are many other magazines, but you don't have the time or the energy left for referring to those magazines. So, The Hindu as a newspaper and Focus plus Frontline are the magazines which are definitely a de rigueur requirement which you have. After we have the current affair thing in place, which means right from the beginning you're going to read newspapers and magazines, then there's a certain set of NCRT books which you need to refer to. Now, when we talk about NCRT books, there's a lot of subjectivity here. Uh, some teachers will tell you, or some people will tell you, that the latest versions of the NCRT books are the most relevant ones for you because they're updated. I agree. They are updated in terms of the knowledge. But the problem is, as far as requirement of the UPSC is concerned, there are certain older editions of NCRT books which are actually more relevant. So you need to know which year's NCRT book of which particular class by which particular author you have to go in for referring. I will share this list of NCRT books with all of you. After you've gone through a foundation of NCRT books, then you need to go in for certain standard books, which are slightly higher. Meghumala is asked, can Focus or Frontline replace the Hindu in our preparation? No. The Hindu is something that you cannot compromise upon. First step is the Hindu, second step is Focus and Frontline. And apart from these two magazines, or rather these three things, you do not have the time to go in for referring to a fourth thing. Then there's a certain list of books which are standard books of various subjects, and they're slightly more advanced. And most of these books are actually customized to the requirement of college exams, but you will have to modify them according to the requirement of the UPSC. And there has to be somebody who tells you how you're going to modify them according to the requirement of the UPSC. Then, after you've done a certain bit of preparation for a certain subject, you've done these first four things, you've done about 75% of these first four things, then you need to refer to the PYQs to understand whether you can answer those questions or not. This is the first help which PYQs will give you. Suppose you are able to answer PYQs, that means you are studying from the right sources. Suppose there are PYQs which you cannot answer. In that situation, you need to go back to your teachers, or you need to go back to your seniors or your colleagues or your friends and ask them which books should be used so that you end up answering these questions. Ruby, you can get in touch with people at Rouse. Nayak sir is the right person. He's going to help you with getting the PDF version of the Focus magazine. Don't worry. Plus, after you develop the capability of answering questions in terms of the knowledge part, then you need to go in for writing answers of the mains examination and showing it up to your teachers or people that you can rely upon. And then you need to get clear feedback from them about the knowledge aspect, the perspective aspect, and your style of writing. And once you get that feedback, you need to improve the way you write answers and you keep on moving ahead. Moreover, throughout this preparation, you need to be continuously taking topic tests, progressive tests, and mock tests so that you remain on track. The biggest and the most important part of the whole testing process is the mock tests. You should start taking the mock test as early as possible. Haripriya, thank you. Thanks for the link that you've shared. I want you to share that link with the whole group. Rather, I'll share the link with everyone here. Interview is something which does not create much of a problem for students who have prepared well for their GS part and they've cleared their CSAT. But interview has certain things which require a longer term preparation. It requires a little bit of effort right from the beginning, but at the same time, take care that if your fear about the interview is based upon the interview panel asking you questions which are based upon knowledge which you don't have, then don't worry about that. Knowledge is not a concern by the time you reach the interview stage. The main concern is your personality and how you give knowledge and how you give your own perspective or your way of thinking. That is a bigger concern in case of the interview. Your communication skills are a bigger concern. Your interpersonal skills are a bigger concern. Your emotional intelligence is a bigger concern. And these are things which have to be developed earlier. They are not to be developed after you have cleared the mains examination and then you start thinking about changing your personality. You need to start working upon your personality earlier than that. So I'm going to take the first step for all of you. A lot of my students who've already done the program with me, I normally start helping them by asking them to write one page about their own self, kind of an introduction of sorts. And in this introduction, you can start with your name. You can talk about your family background, your academic background. In case you have work experience, your work background. You can talk about your interests, hobbies, pastimes, your strengths and weaknesses. You can talk about your insecurities. What have you done about them? What kind of a person you are? What are your aspirations in life? What is the career decisions that you've taken so far? What is the career path that you're thinking about for your own self? I want you to take a blank page, write about 400 words about your own self. You have a total of 7 minutes only to write this, then take a photograph of that and send it to me at this particular number. WhatsApp it to me. There's a reason why I'm asking you to do this particular important part. The reason is that this will give me an idea about your command on English language. In case there is something missing, I am going to point it out to you. This introduction of yours gives a clear idea about the way you think, your ability to express yourself, which is required for your GS paper 2, for the mains exam, as well as for your essay paper. Uh, if
Sir,
you
should
talk
we
about,
write now only?
please speak again.
Sir, should we write our introduction now only?
Right now. 7 minutes you've got.
Okay, sir.
So I'll just put it all on screen. You've got a total of 7 minutes. I'm keeping an eye upon the time part. Write it on a blank piece of paper, take a photograph, and send it and WhatsApp it to me on this number. Hansaj, I'm going to talk about that hobby thing which you're asking. Don't worry. Subjective answers is one area where I have observed that females have an edge. They have the ability to write better answers because they have better communication skills as compared to males. I'm not saying that this stereotypically applies everywhere, there are exceptions. But normally, I have to encourage students, especially the males, to develop the habit of writing more and more. So they start preparing for the essay part at a much later stage as compared to the female students. Because preparing for the essay and writing the initial articles and essays is something which gives them a kick in the back, which tells them that there's some bigger problem with them. Okay, there's a reason why I went in for giving you this assignment. This assignment will point out to you your command on English language. In case there's a requirement, then I'm going to give you feedback upon this area. This also is an indicative of your perspective, your way of thinking, your ability to express yourself, which is required for your GS paper 2 and for the mains examination, GS, as well as for the essays. It is vitally important for essays. It is also important for your interview also, because there's a certain concept of leading the interview. The first question which will be asked when in your personal interview will be to introduce yourself, to tell more about your own self. And when you know how to introduce yourself, this sets the tone for the rest of the interview. So areas on which you have spoken more during your introduction, you're going to get more answers upon more questions upon that particular area. And areas on which you have ignored during your introduction, you are going to see less questions based upon that area. So you have to take care that whatever comes as part of your introduction, it has to be very specific, as specific as possible. If you say music is my hobby and I'm crazy about music, then they can go in for asking you how is E minor different from a C major, and you will not be able to give an answer. If you say that cricket is my hobby, then they can ask you the length of the pitch and the height of bails from the ground also, and they can ask you about certain world records, and then you may not remember all of them. So you will have to be very clear about what is the specific area which is your strength or your weakness or your interest or your hobby. People nowadays do not have hobbies. They don't have time for hobbies. Now the smartphone and social media has taken care that whatever free time we have, we normally spend that time upon social media or upon browsing on our cell phones as such. So people don't have hobbies now, but whatever you like to do in your free time, that is considered to be your area of interest or your hobby or your pastime. So you will have to clearly identify that. And when you say that something is my hobby, then you are expected to know more about that area. You have something called incidental knowledge about that area. For example, if I say that my hobby is to play chess, then automatically I would know more about chess as compared to other people. If I and you, if you don't like chess and I like chess, and we read the same article upon chess in the newspaper, then I will understand that article more. I will be more interested in that article. I would have the background knowledge required to understand that article, and I will remember that article even better. As a result, if you ask me questions about that article, I will remember more of it because I have the background contextual knowledge about it. But somebody who is not interested in chess, even if that person reads the same article, that person will not be able to remember more things. This is the reason why the moment you say that chess is my hobby, and then you give answers for questions which they ask you about chess and how chess has helped you and what are the changes which it has brought in your personality, then those answers will indicate the level of motivation which you have. In your civil services personal interview, which is the last stage of the whole process, your motivation is definitely one of the reasons which are checked. It is one of the most important parameters. People who are high on motivation, they involve themselves more with things which they like, and UPSC is banking upon that. If you have high motivation for your area of interest, then UPSC will help you develop a motivation for their own area for administration, and then you can perform excellently well. This is the reason why a major component of questions will focus upon what do you like to do, what interests you, what is your hobby, what is your interest area or your pastime. This introduction of yours can also indicate certain negatives that you may have. For example, you may be somebody who has preconceived notions, you may have certain biases, you may have certain very strong viewpoints, or your introduction may be an indication of your obstinate behavior. In case that is an input which I get from your introduction, then I'm going to point it out to you. Don't worry. Plus, we all have to learn something which is called as politically correct language. This is something which is very essential for you to handle CSAT paper. It is very essential for you to pick up answers in case of your GS paper 1, and politically correct language is a major component of your mains examination answer writing, essay writing, and even in the interview. We'll talk about this more. Plus, you have to be somebody who's comfortable with the task which has been given to you. So if I gave you the task of writing your introduction here, you should have comfortably given your best to this particular job. This is also a tested area. So please take a photograph of the introduction which you have written and send it across to me by WhatsApping it to me on this particular number, 8800 283 465. This is the number of Shilpi. She is going to forward it to me.
Sir,
Yeah, ask me.
sir, did you created the group, sir?
I'll have to create a group. There are a lot of students who are asking me to do that. I've actually started a batch which is on weekends, and I have to create a group for them. I'm going to add you guys to that same group. Don't worry.
Sir, our batch will be regular batch or weekend batch, sir?
No, this would be a weekday batch. I wanted to start two batches, one for weekend, another one for weekdays, because there was a lot of requirement for a weekend batch from students who are actually working or pursuing their graduation. But that batch is
Sir,
complete. The weekend batch is complete. There, I have
o-
100 seats in one batch. That batch is complete. It already has 100 seats. So
sir,
now
this is an online classing batch or a classroom batch, sir?
this would be absolutely an online batch. See, whatever happened in July, that has scared
Yes,
me.
yes,
That
sir.
has scared me away from physical classes.
Hmm.
Online classes is an area in which I specialize also. I teach even better in case of online classes. So
Okay, sir.
we are possibly going to start an online batch. This would be from the 11th of December.
11th of December.
And it would
But
be
please,
late in the evening, which means it
sir,
would
but
start at 8 o'clock, 8
8
p.m.
o'clock, 8 p.m. Sir, please take it in a regular batch now, sir, so that we'll complete the things early and we'll have a time for doing the PYQs and the Rouse test series and the Blue Books questions.
See, we are going to have 2 to 3 classes in a week. We will comfortably complete everything, don't worry. Plus,
Okay,
I've
sir.
taken care that there are some students who require more help. Because of these students, the syllabus moves at a slower pace. So what I have done is that in the batch which I have designed, in the program which I have designed, there are two components. There is a mandatory component which everyone has to cover. So whether a student is strong or weak in a particular subject, they cover the mandatory part, the compulsory part. And students who find a particular topic challenging or weak, they can attend more extra classes upon that particular area. This way, whether you're good or bad at a particular subject, the program is going to satisfy your requirements.
Sir, by what time our entire classes would be get completed, sir?
3 months. 3 months of
3 months.
mandatory classes to cover everything. But I want to remain in touch with you till the time of the examination. So I do not believe in giving classes and then giving you a set of books to prepare upon. I will prefer that you attend classes, do a little bit of homework during the classes. Once the whole program gets over, then you can possibly go in for getting regular material to work upon, which I will share with you. You work upon that material and then you report back your performance to me. And this is going to continue till the time of your exam.
Sir, please share the class brochure now,
I'll,
sir.
I'll do that. I'll do that. I'll do that. Let's move on ahead. Okay, so now let's come to the main part, which is what is the CSAT? CSAT or Civil Services Aptitude Test is an aptitude test for civil services, and every aptitude test is a modified intelligence or an IQ test to check whether a candidate has a desired potential and attitude for a certain job or an academic program. So, aptitude tests are used for admission into a higher course or they are used for getting a certain job. In your case, CSAT is an examination which is checking you for the suitability to a certain job, which is that of a civil servant. If you look at aptitude tests, then aptitude tests have two components inside them. 70% of the questions in case of an IQ test are in an aptitude test are based upon intelligence or IQ, and there are about 30% questions which check you for your attitude or your way of thinking or your perception. So how is it measured? In 1911, a concept of a mental age was introduced. and IQ was supposed to be mental age upon physical age multiplied by 100. As a result, if there was a 5-year-old person who performed as well as an 9-year-old person, then the 5-year-old person was given a mental age of 9. If there was a 5-year-old person who behaved like a 4-year-old person, then that person was given a mental age of 4. So for the first guy who had a mental age of 9, so 9 upon 5 multiplied by 100 was that person's IQ. This was how IQ is measured. Normal people have an IQ which is exactly 100 because their mental age is equal to their physical age. According to latest survey which was done all across the world, Indians have a low IQ. We have an IQ which is somewhere around a 72 on an average. Highest IQ is of people from Philippines, which is somewhere around 111 or 112. But Indians per se are much more hardworking. Because we are hardworking, that is the reason why we end up becoming more successful than others everywhere. So if you look at the Trump administration, it has people who are Indians. If you look at multinational
Sir,
companies across the world, they are headed by Indians. Yeah, ask me.
sir, how come the Philippines have more IQ compared to Indians?
There are
Where
many
we are
reasons.
lacking?
There are many reasons. There could be a genetic component, or the way their schooling and education is done. That could be a reason, or people who normally live in a place where they've got to struggle more. Such people normally have more IQ. In India, we have an easier life, much easier life. Only some of us work very hard, and those of us who work very hard, they end up being very intelligent. So hard work is something which improves your intelligence always.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, welcome. Now, you also have to understand that at the end of adolescence, as you become an adult, your mental age, like your height, stops increasing. So it is normally customary to use 16 as the baseline figure. Now, let's understand how does IQ develop. IQ is a factor of two broad things, hereditary and your nurture. If your parents are intelligent, then that would mean that you will be more intelligent as compared to other people at the time of your birth. Plus, intelligence which you get from your parents is not so important because if you use your brain more, then you will become much more intelligent than any person in the whole world. So, a particular environment because of which you use your brain is something which is very important for becoming more intelligent. If you have had an easy life and there was no reason for you to work hard using your brain, you did not use your brain for longer periods of time in challenging situations, then automatically you will not be very intelligent. But if you have had to think too much, or if you've done a lot of studies and you've used your brain more, then automatically you will be more intelligent. Apart from this, it is not only using your brain more which is important for developing an intelligence. People who are actually intelligent, genetically, I would say, they normally try to look for situations which will stimulate them to use their brain more. They love those situations. So they love those kind of courses which are more challenging. They will work in areas which are more challenging. As a result, their brain has to be used even more as compared to other people, so they become more intelligent. Plus, even nutrition has a
Sir,
role to
for
play here.
example, sir.
Nutrition has a role to play. If you live in a hill which has a lot of rainfall, then the amount of iodine present in your food will be on the lower side because there's a process called leaching which happens. As a result, iodine is normally low in case of hills which have a lot of rains. This is the reason why a lot of people who live in the hills, they end up developing iodine deficiency diseases. Iodine is an essential component required for intelligence. This is the reason why Indian government decided to make it mandatory for salt to be iodized always. So whether you require iodine or not in your diet, we have iodine now present in our salt. So at least this nutrition problem is not a problem with Indians. There are a lot of countries where iodine is not essential to be added to salt. In such places, if the iodine is less in your environment, then you will not be very intelligent. So Indian government has done an excellent job about 20 years back.
Sir,
Yeah.
Sir, you said that the third point is seeking stimulating
Environments,
environments,
yes,
challenging, which makes the people more intelligent.
yes.
For example, sir, what kind of seeking stimulating environments?
So people who have a tendency to become intelligent, they normally pick up more challenging courses in their schools. Till 10th, everyone studies the same things. If after 10th you choose subjects for your 11th, in your 11th standard, which are considered to be difficult subjects, then these subjects will make you more intelligent. Put it that way, because you'll have to struggle with them. You'll have to work harder.
Okay.
After you've done your 12th, which particular subject you do your graduation in, if that subject is a difficult one and you join a particular college which is known for making its students work hard, then automatically you'll become more intelligent.
Sir, can we put UPSC as an example?
Yes, UPSC makes you more intelligent. Even students who do not get selected, the kind of knowledge which they pick up and the tendency to work hard which they develop, even if they do not go for UPSC exams, these people end up having a different kind of a mindset because of which they reach higher in life. Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose is an example of that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
He was among the first people selected in the UPSC examination. And look at what all
Hmm.
things he did. Nobody could have thought about doing all of those things.
Azad Hind Fauj.
Yes, yes. Okay. Then came a particular scientist by the name of Francis Galton. He started a new field of science called as psychometry. Psychometry was about measuring intelligence. He believed in statistical method, which means he started measuring size of people's head and thought that people who got a bigger head would be more intelligent. And he thought that hereditary is the reason behind intelligence, basically. There were other people. There was a person by the name of Alfred Fred Binet. He believed that verbal abilities or your language skills are a big indicator of your intelligence. So if you have got good language skills, if you have good command over your language, then that is an indicator that you have more intelligence. And Binet was somebody who was considered a pioneer. And most of the psychometry tests which we have now, they have an essential component which is based upon verbal ability, which is language skills. Even the CSAT, almost half of it or even more than half of it is based upon verbal abilities. This guy, Alfred Binet, he went in for creating something called as a Binet-Simon scale, which is used even now. It is the most popular test in United States for decades, and now a variation of that test is used across the whole world to find people's intelligence. Then there was a person by the name of Charles Spearman. He said that all intelligence depends upon something called as general mental ability. And this is reflected in all areas. Raymond Cattell came up with the idea that there are two types of intelligence. There is something called as fluid intelligence and crystallized intelligence. Crystallized intelligence is dependent upon your education and upon the experiences that you have. Fluid intelligence is smartness that you have. This is the intelligence because of which you can possibly solve a problem for which you have not even been trained. And your CSAT examination focuses upon a balance between fluid intelligence and crystallized intelligence.
Sir,
Fluid
what is the before
intelligence, yeah, tell
one?
me.
You have earlier said now, sir, the before scientist one about general mental ability.
Yes,
It is about what, sir?
that general mental ability is inherent smartness which a person has. So if a person is inherently smart, then that person will show intelligence in all areas. Raymond Cattell said that there are two types of intelligence which we believe now: fluid intelligence and crystallized intelligence. With age, fluid intelligence becomes less. Crystallized intelligence, which is dependent upon your knowledge and your education and your experience, is something which does not get affected by age. So let us understand this in a better manner through a question. If you look at the first question which you've attempted, this particular question, which said a contract on construction job specifies a penalty for delay in completion of the work beyond a certain date is as follows. You have to pay 200 rupees for the first day of delay, 250 on the second day, 300 on the third day, etc. And with every succeeding day, you've got to pay 50 rupees more as compared to the preceding day. Then how much penalty should the contractor pay if he delays the work by 10 days? If you look at this particular question with respect to crystallized intelligence, then this is a question which is based upon arithmetic progression. And if you know about arithmetic progression, then you would know that this question is to be solved by using this formula. You would know this formula already, where n is the number of days and d is the different amount which has to be paid every day. As a result of which, when you put in values, then you end up getting this particular equation. 10 by 2 multiplied by 2 into 200 plus 10 minus 1 multiplied by 50. And as you solve it further, you end up getting a 4250 as your answer. This is the mathematical way of doing this question. This is the crystallized intelligence way of doing question. Somebody who comes from a good maths background will do this question by this particular method. And you end up getting 4250 as the answer. But the same question can be done by another method also, by the fluid intelligence method. So if there is somebody who has fluid intelligence inside them and they do not know the formula, then they would know that on day number 1 they have to pay 200 rupees, next day they have to pay 200 plus 50, third day they will have to pay 200 plus 100. As a result, in the end, if it is about 10 days, then they will end up getting this kind of an equation where x is basically 50 rupees. As you simplify it further, total penalty will be 200 multiplied by 10 plus 45x, and as you calculate it, you will end up getting 4250 as the answer. So there are two methods of doing the same question. Even if you do not know arithmetical progression, you can still do this question by this particular method. Now, UPSC's CSAT specializes in a special kind of a basic numeracy question, which is called as calculation intensive question. So even if you do not know the answer, even if you do not know how to solve the question, if you work upon the question using fluid intelligence, you can still get the answer. You don't really require formulas. But if you know the formula, then life becomes very easy. So there are two ways of looking at the same question. This is a crystallized intelligence way of doing questions. This is the fluid intelligence way of doing questions. When I teach basic numeracy, I prefer teaching both methods. So whatever method a student can remember on the day of the exam, they use that particular method. I want you to take a screenshot of this particular slide and I want you to refer to it later on. Okay, next thing. So if you look at IQ tests or if you look at aptitude tests, then intelligence is measured by checking you for 5 different areas: language, numbers, reasoning, active memory, and something called as hallmarks of intelligence. So first of all, let's look at the most important part, which is the language ability or verbal ability or linguistic ability, something which is tested through several areas of your CSAT paper, comprehension being the most important one. Apart from comprehension, verbal ability is also tested through interpersonal skills, through decision making, through your logical reasoning, through your analytical ability, etc. The general understanding is that learning a language is such a difficult task that in the process of learning a language, your brain has to work hard, and as a result, your brain becomes sharper. This is the reason why verbal ability or language ability is tested in case of every IQ test, in case of every aptitude test. So one way of checking a person's intelligence is to check how good that person is in solving of language-based questions. So two types of questions come: questions which test you upon knowledge of concepts, example grammar based questions, or application of questions, for example questions which have tricky language, which means even in case of a mathematics question, the tricky language of the mathematics question is actually checking you for your verbal ability or language skills. And the reason why certain questions in case of CSAT of mathematics are difficult is because they've got tricky language, not because they are testing you for difficult concepts. So tricky language of questions is indicative of your ability to handle language. Now, You can end up having questions on reading comprehension, grammar, vocabulary, fill in the blanks, sentences, essay writing, etc. Out of these areas, in case of CSAT, directly reading comprehension comes. You need to have a good sense of vocabulary. You need to have the ability to fill in the blanks in sentences. This is something which is required. Mathematics is the second thing, which is an important way to test somebody's intelligence. And mathematics is such a difficult subject that you have to work a lot to understand mathematics. Your brain has to work hard to learn concepts of mathematics. Then you solve math problem, and as a result, your brain becomes sharper. Hardcore difficult mathematics is not tested on IQ tests. But your basic numeracy questions will always check you for easy concepts with less calculations. But language of questions is tricky, so they will check tricky concepts. You can be tested on questions based upon arithmetic, algebra, geometry, modern maths, etc. Same kind of things which you studied back in your school days. But most of the questions which appear in this examination are reasoning questions called as logical reasoning or critical reasoning or analytical ability. All of those are different names for the same area, which is reasoning. As a human being, you are not taught reasoning as a subject in your school or in your college, but you learn reasoning automatically through your experiences. We observe that being careless on the road can cause accidents, so we reason out or think out that we need to be careful on the road. This is an example of reasoning lessons which you learned. You can be tested on reasoning by questions based upon logical reasoning, critical reasoning, analytical ability, general mental ability, integrated reasoning, or data interpretation, etc. Rather, I would say 90% of the questions which appear in case of CSAT are actually reasoning questions. These are reasoning questions which are asked in the language of mathematics and English. So you need a fundamental knowledge of English and mathematics in order to handle the questions which appear in case of CSAT. You need both. You need to have knowledge about English and maths as a first step, which is the foundation, and then you need to understand how reasoning is tested through those concepts. Then there
Sir,
is something, yeah, ask me.
sir, you will teach the fundamental reasoning, English and mathematics also, sir. I mean,
Yeah, both.
fundamental
I'm basically a
in the
maths
class.
person, although I prefer spending more of my class time upon English part. For the English part of the examination, whether it is IMCAT or whether it is UPSC CSAT, good teachers of English are not available. There are lots of teachers for mathematics. This is the reason why I prefer spending more of my time in teaching the English part of the examination rather than the maths part. I'm also a
Sir,
teacher of mathematics in case of IMS, which prepares students for IMCAT. And there I spend more of my time teaching English to my students, less time upon teaching maths to the teachers. So I do not waste time in teaching mathematics to students because mathematics, according to me, is an area which only requires a little bit of guidance and then a lot of hard work is required. So teacher has to ensure that students know what they have to work hard upon. And then you become good at basic numeracy.
sir, I'm very much weak in the English, sir.
And Pavan, at least you have accepted that you are weak in English. In our country, people have ego problems in accepting that they are weak in English. So if you accept that, you've done a great first step. This is a first step in improving yourself.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Another thing which is important part of all the IQ tests is something called as active memory, which means your ability to memorize things and understand them and remember those things at the time when you require that information is called as active memory. So if you learn a formula of mathematics, but if you forget it, then your active memory is weak. So you need to be good at knowing different things and using that information which you already have in order to handle the questions which are asked in the examination. So you need to have the ability to understand and have knowledge and a sharp brain to use that knowledge so that you can crack the questions. You can be asked different concepts. Questions which are asked on concepts are basically active memory questions. Say, remembering a particular formula or remembering a particular method of solving a particular question, which ensures perfectly right answers, is part of active memory. If I take the example of mathematics questions, a single mathematics question can be solved by several methods. Out of all of those methods, there is one method which is fastest, which has less number of steps. As a result, it is called a strategy, and it is also the one which ensures a higher accuracy. You need to know strategies for every type of question as part of this exam's preparation. That is also part of active memory. Moreover, there is something called as hallmarks of intelligence. Hallmarks of intelligence is special behavior shown by intelligent people, which normal people like you and me do not show. You and I, we have an intelligence level of somewhere around 100. But people who are very intelligent, who've got an IQ level above 160, these people behave differently as compared to us. And these people's way of thinking is different as compared to us. This is called as hallmarks of intelligence. There are some questions which check whether you think like a very intelligent person or do you think like a normal person. These questions are the most tricky ones. So people with higher IQ, they will always behave differently. This is tested. Very intelligent people always look for clarity. They look for symmetry in language. They avoid redundancy. They focus upon accuracy. That is the reason why, for example, if they are very good at mathematics, they will not be satisfied by doing a mental calculation. They will always use pen and paper to do the calculation and recheck their calculation. They don't have unnecessary amount of confidence and ego because of which they do not check. No, they always recheck whatever they have done. They always calculate very carefully. Very intelligent people use certain strategies to solve questions. They know that different questions require different methods of solving. So they do not go in for solving a question by whatever method comes to their mind. No, they have a clear method which they will use for a certain type of question. This should be a great effective method called as a strategy. Apart from checking you on numbers, language, reasoning, hallmarks of intelligence, CSAT also needs to test you upon your decision making skills, your honesty, integrity, uprightness, so they are decision making questions, and your awareness of English language. Unless and until you are good at this part, you will not be able to handle the CSAT as an examination. So if I look at the structure of the examination in the last few years, then you can see that there are consistently 27 to 32 questions which will definitely come in case of comprehension. Other topics may be present in the examination or may not be present. They may decrease in number, they may increase in number. For example, if I look at interpersonal skills and communication skills, this is part of your written syllabus, but not even a single direct question has been asked upon this area. Why? Because this area is required to handle other areas. So direct questions on interpersonal skills and communication skills do not come, but this area is tested through other areas. Logical reasoning and analytical ability, you normally end up having 7 to 20 questions. If you look at decision making, questions can come or they can disappear in a particular year, then they can come back again, then they disappear for a few years, then they come again. So decision making keeps on appearing and disappearing in the exam. If you look at general mental ability, you have 3 to 16 questions which can come from this area. Basic numeracy, the number of questions can be as less as 3, they can be as high as 33. So all the rest of the areas can come and go. All the rest of the areas can have less number of questions or more number of questions, but comprehension always has a clear 27 to 32 questions which will come every year. This is the only consistent part. Other things keep on increasing or decreasing. Plus, apart from the distribution of questions which you can see in case of various subject areas, remember every year there will be a 20% component in your examination which will be a surprise element. There will be 20% questions always every year. A total of exact 16 questions will come every year which will surprise you and shock you. But you should not get worried or afraid of these questions because you don't have to attempt all questions. So even if there's an element of surprise in the paper, you should not get affected in terms of solving questions.
Sir, what kind of surprise, sir?
Those questions will seem to be questions that you have not prepared for, or you will get a feeling that they're out of syllabus, or they will seem to be super easy questions or super difficult questions. So every aptitude test will have a 20% surprise element. It is a part of way of testing in case of aptitude tests, and CSAT is an aptitude test. So every year when students come out of the examination hall after giving the CSAT paper, they will say there was a lot of questions which we were not comfortable with. Whether they clear the paper or not, that's not important. What's important is that they will not be very happy with their CSAT performance because of presence of that surprise element every year. Then, in case of aptitude test, you have to understand that there's a clear attitude change which is required when you are handling mathematics or the basic numeracy part. Your school or college mathematics is different from whatever is tested in case of the CSAT in the name of basic numeracy. So if you look at school or college exam mathematics, then the focus is upon understanding concepts. You get marks for procedure, steps, and correct answer up to fourth position of decimal. So you get half the marks for giving the right answer, half the marks for following the same procedure which the teacher has taught you. Because the teacher wants you to understand maths. They're not trying to fail you or pass you. They're trying to make you understand maths. So there's a lot of focus upon concepts, procedures, and steps. Questions do not have tricky language or confusing language in school exams. If a question is easy, it will test you for easy concepts, easy formulas, easy calculations it will have. And there will be fewer steps of calculation. If a question is difficult, then difficult questions will test you for difficult concepts, difficult formulas, difficult calculations, and there will be many steps of calculation. This is what happens in case of school or college exams of mathematics. But if you look at CSAT, then here the situation is different here in basic numeracy. Here what is important is that there is no focus upon whether you know concepts or not. The focus is only upon choosing the right answer in less amount of time. What method you use, what procedure you use, how many steps you use, that is not important here. You get marks only for the correct answer. You don't get marks for procedure and steps, which means your whole preparation has to be different for basic numeracy. Basic numeracy is not a reflection of school or college level maths. Even though the topics remain the same, it is the same arithmetic, algebra, geometry, and modern maths. Questions will have tricky language, confusing language. The focus of the questions will be upon encouraging you to make a mistake. So difficult questions will have easy concepts, they will have easy formulas and calculations, but they will have difficult and confusing language. They will encourage you to make more and more number of silly mistakes. This is the difference between basic numeracy of CSAT and college level mathematics. Have you done all those first three questions? Yes, no? Has everyone done them? There were people who joined in late. I want to give you a 5-minute break at this stage because now we are jumping into the actual questions.
Sir, what we should do now?
People who have done the first three questions, you can take a 5-minute break. Students who joined in late, who have not done the first three questions, I want you to attempt those first three questions quickly. Meghamala, the question which you asked, sir, what if I didn't use any of these methods and still got the answer right? Then that is important. That is good.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
5 whole minutes for people who've already done the first three questions. And within these 5 minutes, people who joined in late, they can attempt these three questions, initial three questions, quickly. Especially the second and the third question. First, we've already discussed.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's start. If I look at this question, then I will repeat. You need to have two things inside you in order to handle questions of basic numeracy. You need to know basic mathematics, and then you need to be smart enough to apply that mathematics in order to get your answers. So questions which come in the examination, they are calculation intensive, seemingly easy questions on which students make mistake because they have less amount of time to crack these questions. So if I look at this question, it says each of the cards shown in the figure above has a number on each side. The product of the pair of numbers on each card is even. Product means if you multiply the two numbers, you end up getting an even number. How many of these cards must have an even number on the side of the card not shown? So every card has two numbers. Question is really asking how many of these cards must have an even number on the side of the card which is not visible. So remember, you need to have a certain amount of basic mathematical knowledge. For example, you need to know that when you multiply an even number with another even number, you end up getting an even number. When you multiply an odd number with an even number, you will get an even number. And when you multiply an odd number with an odd number, you end up getting an even odd number. You get an odd number as such. This information must be known to you in order to answer this particular question. So, if you look at it, cards numbers 2, 4, and 2. This card and this card already have an even number. So whether you multiply them with an even number or an odd number, you will end up getting an even number. So even multiplied by even or even multiplied by an odd number always gives you an even number. So I don't need to worry about card number 4 and card number 3, card number 2, these two. But cards which carry 3 or 1 on them, they are odd cards. They have an odd number on them. You have to definitely multiply them with an even number. Only then you will get an even product. This is the reason why correct answer is option B, which is 2. Card number 3 and card number 1 have to have an even number on their backside. Only then you'll end up getting all even cards as such. So if this particular question has two components inside it. First component is that you need to have the basic mathematics in place. Then you need to apply this information for this situation, and only then you can end up getting the answer. This is a super easy question which appeared, but when it appeared on the examination, students had not seen this kind of a question before, or this design of a question. So they struggled with this particular question to understand what it really requires. So the design of questions will be very different from the kind of questions that you've seen in your life on the same areas. Even number, product or even numbers, or product or even and odd is something which is taught somewhere around the fourth standard, fourth or fifth class. Everyone studies this part. So you need to know this part, then you need to understand that this is required to solve this question, and then you solve this question. Two components here: crystallized knowledge here and fluid knowledge to apply this knowledge upon this particular question, to understand that this knowledge is the one which is relevant. I'm giving you a question and I want you to attempt this question in 10 seconds. Are you ready? Keep your pen and paper ready. Pawan.
Yes, sir.
I will keep counting also, that will disturb you as well. But I want the answer in 10 seconds.
I'll try, sir.
Ready with your pen and paper? Okay, the question appears on the screen now. I'm not going to give you a difficult question, don't worry. Difficult questions don't come on the exam. One, two,
X
three,
equal to 1, sir.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Give me the answer.
X equal to 1, sir.
X equal to 1?
Yes, sir.
No, question which I'm asking is A equal to B?
If Ax equal to B, if Ax equal to Bx, is A equal to B.
So
If
answer
X equal to
answer has to be in yes or no. Quick.
yes, sir.
Okay, so you're wrong.
Answer is yes.
Let's understand. Let's understand. First thing which you have to understand in case of this question is, suppose value of x is equal to 0 and value of a is equal to 4 and b is equal to 7. Then what will happen? Then ax will be equal to bx, because on both sides of the equation you are going to have 0. But if 4 into 0 is equal to 7 equal to 0 into 0, does that mean that 4 is equal to 7? No. So understand that when you're doing this kind of a question, or any question for that matter in basic numeracy, even if you find the question super easy, never mark the answer of the question in 30 seconds. Because questions actually have something hidden, confusing part inside them. Always. Don't cancel anything on both sides of the equation if you do not know its value. For example, you did not know the value of x on both sides, you should not have cancelled it. Instead, what you should be doing is solve any such question with an equation by putting everything on one side of the equal to sign. So, take everything on one side and you end up getting ax minus bx is equal to 0. As a result of it, when you simplify it further, you can get a minus b multiplied by x is equal to 0. Or either a minus b is equal to 0 or x is equal to 0. So either a is equal to b or x is equal to 0. So the answer for this question is I don't know. The answer for this question is not yes. Answer for this question is not no. Answer for this question is I don't know. I don't know whether A is equal to B according to the question's information. Answer of this question
because
is
it
not a
will
yes or a no.
not
Remember
complete.
that. So, in case of your exam, you will not have difficult questions like questions involving the Heron's formula for area of finding the area of a triangle. You will not have difficult calculations like the fifth root of 34 multiplied by 47 to the power of 24 divided by 15.7149 till two positions of decimals. This will not be asked. Neither difficult formulas will be asked nor difficult calculations will be asked. These two scary things are not asked in the examination at all. Easy formulas come, easy calculations come. It is a language which is tricky. And you need to have an exposure of different type of questions and what those questions are really testing you for. Let's look at this question. Everyone, try your hand at this question. See if you can do this. Only 3 students have given the answer so far.
Sir, answer is 3.
Answer
Is
is
it
three.
correct,
What?
sir?
3 what?
What fraction of the paintwork is
One
left?
third? Okay,
I just
let's
got
see what I'm trying to make you understand through this question. Remember what is being tested. Your ability to understand the question is being tested. You have to be clear about understanding what is given in this question as information and what is really being asked. What is really being asked is the last part of the question, last sentence. There are many ways to attempt each question. What is being tested is, do you know the easiest and the fastest way by which you do not make silly mistakes? So there are some methods in which you can make more silly mistakes, other methods in which you make less silly mistakes. So you have to know the right method of doing this question in which less silly mistakes will happen. And your ability to read this question properly, understand it, analyze it, and solve it with whatever limited amount of skills of mathematics you have is being tested here. So let us first of all look at the method which is taught to us by our school teachers. They always start solving this question by saying, suppose total work is equal to 1, then A does 1/3 of the work. So the work left after A completes his work will be 1 minus 1/3, which is equal to 2/3 of the work. Then B comes and B does 1/4 of the remaining work. So 2/3 minus 1/4 of 2/3, which means 1/4 of 2/3 is equal to 1 by 6. So after B completes the work, then the work left will be equal to 2 by 3 minus 1 by 6, which comes out to be 1 upon 2, half of the work. Now C comes and paints 1/5 of the remaining room. How much of the room is remaining? Half. So C paints 1/5 of 1 upon 2, which means C does 1 upon 5 multiplied by 1 upon 2 equal to 1 upon 10th of the work. And work left after C goes away will be equal to 1 upon 2, this 1 upon 2 minus this 1 upon 10, which will come around to be 2 by 5. So 2/5 of the work is left after C completes his work or her work. 2 by 5 is the answer. This is the method which is taught to us by our school teachers. So most of us have a tendency to use this method. But a problem is during the examination, when you do not have enough of space to do rough work, when you write all of these calculations in rough, then there is a big chance that a 2 can look like a 1 and you may end up making a silly mistake while doing a calculation. So if you are using this method of solving this question, you are inviting disaster. So mathematics which we learn in school or college, it focuses upon reading the question and calculating blindly with a lot of fury. On CSAT, language of question is a bit tricky, so you first of all need to understand that. So focus upon reading the question carefully, understanding what is given in the question, understand what is it asking for, analyze how you will solve it. You need to know the right method of solving it, not just how to solve it. And then solve it with your limited skills and recheck your answer for the sake of accuracy. So in questions of fractions, always remember one thing, and that thing which you have to remember is in questions of fractions, never assume that the complete work is equal to 1, never assume it is equal to x, never assume that the complete work is equal to 100. Instead,
Sir,
yeah,
once you go to the previous slide.
this one,
Previous slide, sir. This one, sir. I'll take the screenshot. Sir,
This slide?
this, sir, the front one, sir.
Next
You
one.
have went to yes, sir,
Okay,
next
okay, okay,
slide.
okay. This slide.
All 5 points. Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. There is a sixth point also, which is recheck your answer.
Uh, okay.
Always remember, in questions of fractions, never assume the complete work to be equal to 1 or x or 100. Instead, always take complete work as product of denominators. So what are denominators? A paints one third of the room, so 3 is the denominator here. B paints one fourth of the room, so 4 is the denominator here. And C paints one fifth of the remaining room, so 5 is the denominator. So 3 multiplied by 4 multiplied by 5 should be the complete work. 3 into 4 into 5 is equal to 60. So when you're solving a question of fractions, always take the complete work as product of denominators. As a result, once you take complete work as 60, and the question is asking what fraction of the paint work is left, then A paints one third of the room. What is one third of 60? You don't need a pen and paper to do this. One third of 60 is equal to 20. So A does 20, work left after A completes his work will be 60 minus 20, which is equal to 40. You don't need pen and paper to do this.
Sir, why only we took product of denominators? Why not
Because this,
addition?
we took product of denominators because this is the way by which your calculation becomes simpler. And your chances of making a mistake while doing calculation vanish off. Finding out one third of 60 is the easiest thing in the world. You know it is equal to 20. So after A
Yes, sir.
completes the work, 40 work is left. 40
Yes,
units
sir.
of work is left. Then comes B. B paints how much? One fourth of the remaining room. So one fourth of 40 is equal to 10. You already know that. So
Yes,
B
sir.
does 10. 40 minus 10 is equal to 30. Work left will be equal to 30 after B goes away. Then C comes. C does one fifth of the remaining room. So one fifth of 30. You know that 6 fives are 30. As a result, one fifth of 30 will be equal to 6. So work left will be 24. Now the only stage wherein you are doing a actual calculation will be 24 upon 60, which is remaining work, which is equal to 2 by 5. Compare this calculation with this calculation. Here you have chances of making a mistake in the previous method. Also, when you are taking the examination, you don't have to write down things such as, so let complete work be equal to 60. This is the actual rough work which you will do. And this rough work is simple enough that you will not make calculation mistakes. This is the
Sir, the
strategy for
biggest,
doing a fraction question.
sir, the biggest is like not mistake, but actually the thing is we need to remember it, sir, to take the complete work as product of denominators.
Yes, yes, you need to remember. This is crystallized knowledge which is required. This is crystallized intelligence. This is the reason why when I teach basic numeracy, I will first of all teach you mathematics, the basic part of it. Only then I'm going to teach you the smart part of it.
Okay, sir.
Okay? So, in questions involving fractions, take total work as product of denominators. In a similar manner, if you're doing a question involving percentages, the total work has to be taken as 100. Not any other value, ever. This method of using a 100 in case of percentages and using a product of denominators in case of fraction questions is called as plugging in method or substitution method. And this method works wonders. It is not tiring method. It does not require you to do difficult calculations. So it is a better method to do it. Look at this question. This is the last question that we are doing tonight. Don't worry. 3 minutes you've got. I will do this question by both methods. I will do it by the conventional method and I will do it by fluid intelligence also, which is a smart method of doing it. I do not believe in teaching you tricks in maths because tricks work only on one kind of question. And fluid method works on all questions, on more number of questions. So it is replicable inside the examination hall also. If you have learned tricks to do questions, you may not see exactly the same question, so the trick is useless. So let's first of all do this question by the conventional method, the method taught to us in our schools, and the method which comes to our mind when we see this kind of a question. In order to get answer of this particular question, I basically require the area of the trapezium, which is BEFD, upon the area of the square, which is ABCD. So I already know that the side of the square is 5 centimeter, as a result of which the area of the square ABCD is 5 square, which is equal to 25 centimeter square. This is one information which I already have. But the problem is with the area of the trapezium. Area of the trapezium is equal to sum of parallel sides upon 2 multiplied by height. So even if I have to first of all calculate the distance BD, I have to calculate distance EF, and then I have to calculate what is the height of this trapezium, which is a bigger challenge. So I will have to draw a line ME, which is perpendicular on the line BD. It makes a 90-degree angle here, and it touches the point E, which is the midpoint of B and C. So BD plus EF upon 2 multiplied by the height ME. This is the actual equation. But I need to find out BD, I need to find out EF also. This is the real equation which is important for us to do this question. So if I proceed ahead and I try to find out what BD is equal to, then we know already through Pythagoras theorem that if we are talking about a square, then this angle has to be 90 degree. As a result, BD square will be equal to AB square plus AD square. We calculate it further and we end up getting BD square is equal to 5 square plus 5 square, or BD square is equal to 50, which is 25 plus 25, and BD will be equal to 50 divided by 2, root of 50, which is 5 root 2. So this length is 5 root 2. In a similar manner, now we need to find out EF, this particular part. So we already know that F and E are midpoints of DC and BC. And this length CF and length CE should be equal to 2.5 centimeter, which is half of 5 centimeter, because this whole side is 5 centimeter. So half of this distance should be equal to 2.5 centimeter. So these two sides are 2.5 centimeter. From this I can find the length EF, which is through Pythagoras theorem again. So EF square is equal to FC square plus CE square. We already know the value of EC and CF. I substitute those two values. And I end up getting EF equal to 2.5 root 2. So now I found EF also. Now the third challenge is to find out what is the length ME equal to, which is an even bigger problem. So when I find out the area of the trapezium, I have already have this part of the equation ready with me. I still have to find out ME. So let's find out ME. I already know that these two angles are 45-degree angles and this is a 90-degree angle. So when I try to find out ME, I know that MBE and MEB are equal to 45 degree because this angle has to be 90 degree. So MB has to be equal to ME. And now we can use Pythagoras theorem to find out that MB square plus ME square, MB square plus ME square is equal to BE square. B is equal to 2.5, MB is equal to ME. So we end up getting the length ME, which is equal to 1.76 centimeters. Now I have all things ready with me and I can do the calculation, simplify things, and I end up getting 9.328 centimeters square as the area of the trapezium.
Can you repeat once again how you got the MA value?
ME value, I'm repeating it. When we try to find out ME, then remember that this angle MBE and MEB, they are equal.
Yes, sir.
This angle is 90 degree.
Yes, sir.
BME is 90 degree angle. As a result, the length of BM and ME should be same because they are sides opposite to the equal angles as such. So if MBE and MEB are 45 degree, then MB and ME should be equal in length. These two lengths should be equal. So we can go in for using Pythagoras theorem that MB square plus ME square is equal to BE square. We already know that BE is equal to 2.5 centimeter and MB is equal to ME. As a result, twice of ME square is equal to 2.5 square, or ME is equal to 1.76 centimeter after calculation, after an intensive calculation, I would say. From this, I get all the values in place and we can find out the area of the trapezium. Now, next step is I find the ratio of area of trapezium to area of square, which is equal to 9.328 upon 25, which is equal to 3 by 8. This is the school method of doing this question. This is the method which anyone with a good knowledge of mathematics will use. But there is another way of doing this question. If I look at this particular figure, A, B, C, D, and I draw a line perpendicular to DC at point F, and I draw another line perpendicular to BC touching E point, and I draw a third line here, a diagonal to this particular rectangle, then if this is a square, then I actually have 8 triangles which are equal in size, equal in area, equal, absolutely, congruent triangles. And you can see very clearly that the total number of triangles in this square are 8, and out of 8, only 3 triangles are shaded ones. So shaded area upon total area is equal to 3 by 8, you get your answer. This is fluid intelligence or the smart way of doing it. I'm not calling it as a trick. It is not a trick. You can apply it on thousands of questions of this particular type. So you should not get misled by tricks written in books. They only work upon one question. Fluid intelligence method or the smart method of doing questions or strategy method, it works on a lot of questions. This we've already have hit 9:30, so I think I should stop here. Questions which you have in mind, ask me.
Sir,
Yeah, ask me.
please share the class brochure, sir.
I'll do that. I'll
Like,
do that. I'll share details with
what
you.
all the
I'll share I will email and WhatsApp the details of the program which I'm launching on 11th. The timing of that batch will be from 8 o'clock so that it does not clash with your normal classes. So if you have any other classes, it will not clash with their timings. I'm not starting a daytime batch. It will be a late evening batch. I want you to have a quick dinner before 8 o'clock and then come for the classes. If you have dinner during the classes, I'll be happy. I don't have a problem with that.
sir, per week, how many classes is there?
Per week, I will start with 2 classes. Then I will increase it to 3 classes. And this will continue for 3 whole months, exactly 3 months. I want to finish off the program. During the course of the program, apart from classes, you have to study for about 1 hour after every class. And once the course gets over in 3 months, then every week I will give you some work on different subjects so that you remain in touch. And then we will have a series of mock tests.
So will each class be of 2 hours?
No. Class will be of approximately 2 hours, which means it will be 2 to 2.5 hours.
Okay, sir.
But I have divided the whole course into 2 parts. There will be a mandatory or a compulsory part which you cover along with other students, whether you are good in that particular topic or subject or not. And in case you are weak in a certain area, for example, there will be some students who will be weak in comprehension and they will require more help. There will be other students who will be weak in basic numeracy and GMA, they will require separate extra classes. reasoning is something that we have not seen, but a lot of questions of reasoning can be done, and a lot of students leave those questions thinking that they don't know how to do these questions. But some of you will accept that logical reasoning and analytical ability is your weak area. So we'll have separate extra classes for those such students. But I do not want everyone to sit through classes even if you're good at a particular topic. You will get bored in that process. So there will be clearly defined mandatory classes or compulsory classes, and there will be extra sessions for students who are struggling with that particular topic. Yeah, Megomalas, you can turn on your mic and speak up.
Sir, I wanted to ask, is it okay if I don't study basic numeracy but do everything else?
I will not be happy with that. You can do that, but I'll not be happy with that. I'll prefer that you only attend the mandatory classes. If you're doing good in them, then you don't need to attend the extra sessions as such.
Okay. So it's just that basic numeracy, I have a lot of fear of mathematics. So I was thinking that I would leave basic numeracy and focus on the other things.
Megomala, you will have to understand one thing very clearly. Basic numeracy is the easiest part of the exam.
Okay.
I consider basic numeracy so easy that I do not waste time in teaching a lot of batches maths part. 90% of my time I only teach English part because English part is actually the more difficult one. It is the one where you require more help.
Yes, I did your CSAT course last year, and I have a pretty good answer, I mean, scoring rate in reading comprehension now.
Good.
So,
So
but
don't fear basic numeracy. We do not know whether in the coming year the number of questions of basic numeracy are somewhere around a 30 or a 40. In that situation, I don't want you to take a risk.
okay.
CSAT overall may be comparatively easy, but it is a very tricky area because it can result in wasting your whole preparation of GS paper 1 and the mains exam if you do not clear it. So I want you to be good at all areas. I will not give you too much of work to do. I will not take too much of time. I will do it very effectively in less amount of time. So you don't have to put in too much of energy and time in case of the whole of the syllabus.
Okay, sir.
Sir,
Got it.
in the entire class schedule, you will give equal time period for basic numeracy and English, sir?
Roughly equal time, yes. In case of, see, the mandatory part will have equal time given to basic numeracy and comprehension. There are some topics which require less amount of time. For example, logical reasoning only requires a total of 4 hours. 2 hours of learning concepts and 2 hours of attempting questions in front of me. So there are some topics which require less amount of time and other topics which require more time.
Sir, how can we come to know that in the CSAT paper the GS subjects were tested?
I couldn't get you. Can you please repeat that question?
Sir, how can we know that in the CSAT paper the whole subjects which were in the GS were
Yes.
tested?
See, in CSAT, your GS topics of history, economics, etc., will not be tested. But yes, you are going to learn a lot of skills as part of your CSAT program, which will help you in GS. For example, I am going to focus upon developing your ability in English language, which will be helpful there. You will be able to understand your books better. You will be able to understand your GS classes better because your potential in English language will get improved. Priyanshu, I have seen what question you've asked. Give me time. I'll see how I can solve the problem which you are facing.
So one question,
Yeah.
sir, as you discussed questions today, so these were mostly through PPT that you did. So
Yes.
while teaching, so would this be only the format, or would you be doing calculations on your own with pen or something like that? Digital.
I can do both things. I have to work harder to prepare a PPT because that takes extra amount of time. But then I prefer teaching everything through the PPT because in a PPT everything is very clearly present in front of you. When I use a pen or any person uses a pen on screen, then whatever calculations are being done there on the screen, they are not very clearly visible. This is the reason why I spend a lot of hard work trying to prepare PPTs for the maths part. Rather, I'm the only maths teacher who teaches mathematics through PPTs. Every step of calculation, I will show it on the screen instead of actually writing it down.
Yes, actually, I was thinking that maybe we are more familiar with writing down the calculations.
I
So,
can do the writing part also, don't worry. That's not an issue. So when I
okay, sir.
do your doubts, at that time, I would definitely go in for using pen and paper to do the calculations.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, welcome.
Sir,
Uh, one
basically,
student has asked a question which says, for students who have completed their classes, how do you suggest they go forward? How many hours per day should they give daily for CSAT? Should they follow any particular solution books besides PYQs? See, PYQs are the most important questions for you, whether it is GS paper 1, mains exam, or the CSAT. The first purpose of the PYQs is that after you have done your preparation, when you attempt PYQs, they tell you very clearly how much you know and how much you don't know. PYQs give you an idea whether whatever you have studied, have you studied from the right source or not. This is the first part work of PYQs. So PYQs should not be wasted. My method of teaching is that I will teach you through a mix of PYQs and basic fundamental questions. But at a later stage, I want the preparation to be done only with questions which are either PYQs or similar to PYQs. There is a question which has been asked: how many hours per day should a person give daily for CSAT? You do not have to prepare daily for CSAT. If you have covered the whole program, then I want you to spend a maximum of 5 hours per week on CSAT. Do it on 2 days, 2 different days. You don't have to study every day for CSAT. Your syllabus of GS is huge. Your preparation, which is required for GS paper 1 of prelims and for the main examination, is huge. You cannot afford to give time to CSAT every day. So twice in a week, you have to spend about 2.5 hours on those 2 days. But some students may need to work more, some students may need to work less. So you will have to find out through the test which you take whether you need to spend more time or whether you need to spend less amount of time.
sir, you
Yes,
said the duration of the course will be 3 months.
exactly 3 months.
Sir, how
I
many class, how many total number of classes will be taken by you, sir, in this total
That
three
will
months?
depend upon how much problem you are facing.
Sir, I am weak in both English and mathematics, sir.
Then your syllabus will get over in 3 months, but I would require another 1 month with you in extra sessions so that you become good at least.
So that means I will be attending 4 months, sir.
4 months of classes, yes. But during the fourth month, you will only be attending certain classes. Classes in which it gets pointed out that those classes are good for you, are required by you. Only then you attend those classes. You don't have to attend all classes. Nobody has to attend all classes. This is the reason why I broke up the syllabus into mandatory part and a extra portion for practice.
Sir, if I want to attend the other than mandatory, I'll attend mandatory also, sir.
Mhm.
Other than mandatory, if I want to attend the other classes also, can I attend, sir?
You can do that. That is you. I will give you a suggestion whether you need to attend any extra session or not, and then it is up to you whether I have told. If I tell you that you don't need to attend Monday's class, and if you want to attend, you can always attend. Don't worry. Okay, this is where we are going to stop. You've been a very wonderful audience. You've asked me the right questions. I wanted a certain idea about what are the problem areas that all of you are facing. So now I'm going to send you a brochure which will have details about the program. I want you to go through it properly, ask me questions on WhatsApp or by making a phone call to me. All of you normally would have my phone number, or you can use Shilpi's number, any number which you have. And then we are going to commence the program on 11th. My problem is I cannot do the program on weekends because I've already given the weekend wala slot to the first batch. Your batch is the second batch, which is during weekdays. So I'm going to have classes on Wednesdays and Fridays to begin with, and then I want to add one more day after some time. I want to complete the mandatory syllabus within exact 3 months. I do not want the program to get prolonged. I know your time is very important. I don't want you to waste unnecessary amount of time on CSAT. I want you to just clear this examination in a safe manner. So if a 33% score is required to pass, I want you to get a clear 40 to 45% marks, and that is where you stop your preparation. You should not target getting a score of 100% and becoming excellent at basic numeracy, comprehension in every area. I don't want that thing to happen. That is wastage of time. That is not required. Smart preparation means that if 33% are required to qualify this examination, you should be a 40 to 45% kind of a student. This is all. So even if there is a surprise in the examination, you will be able to clear the examination.
Sir, what if the question paper comes very tough? Like,
There are only 20% of the questions which can give you a surprise. Rest of the questions, 80% of the questions are conventional questions the way they are coming every year. And out of those 80% questions, you don't have to do all the questions.
sir, my suggestion and my request, sir, is you teach everything, sir. We will manage according to our capability of GS paper, Prelims paper 1 and the CSAT. Sir,
Yes.
all students are not equal now, sir. Some are very weak in CSAT like
This
me,
is this is
almost
see,
zero.
this is the reason why I broke up the whole program into a mandatory part and a part which is completely customized according to your requirement. So if you need more practice for a certain area because you are struggling with it, I'm going to spend more time with you. I'm there with you till the time of the examination. But I don't want you to unnecessarily spend time after four months. I only want you to remain in touch with the topics because that is what is required till the time of the examination. Before the examination, I want you to spend a certain amount of time on taking mock tests, analyzing them, and learning from the mock tests.
Sir, but you teach all the concepts, sir.
I will teach all the concepts which are required, yes.
Sir, not the required, sir. What, like I was the earlier student of Rao only, sir. You used to teach the English comprehension, and
Yes.
sir used to teach the mathematics. Uh, I missed most of the concepts, sir. I went back to home due to some reason. I missed most of the concepts, sir. So again, I'm joining in the in your classes. Uh, I want I request you, sir, to please teach all the concepts. I am very much weak in the CSAT area,
I,
like
I,
in
I'll teach all
mathematics.
concepts. Don't worry. I'll teach all concepts.
And the Blue Books PYQs also, and Blue Books questions of Rao. I have all that materials with myself.
Okay.
While I'm trying to solve that, I'm unable to solve the most of the questions. Sir.
We'll work on that. Don't worry. We'll work on that. You had raised this particular question in the previous batch also. I remember.
I went to home sir due to some reason. I was unable to attend the most classes.
Okay. We'll do that. Don't worry. Shubi, you're welcome. Chalo, we'll stop here. I'm going to send you a mail with all the details. I want you to take an informed decision. In case you have any apprehensions, I want you to talk to me and then take your first step.
Sir, today
Thank
mail
you, sir.
I didn't got sir. You please send it in the WhatsApp. Today
I'll
the
do that. I'll do that.
class mail I
Acha,
didn't
in
receive.
case of mails, you'll have to check your spam folder or your junk folder. That possibly contains the mail. So you have to access that mail and say that this is not spam or junk. And then you will get all mails. Whenever somebody sends a mail for the first time, it normally goes into the spam folder or the junk folder. So please check the junk folder and the spam folder of your account and move that mail to the normal account, the inbox part. Then you will not have a problem of not receiving emails. Chalo, bye. Good night.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, welcome.
Right.
Bye, 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 bye.
Yes, sir.
Bye. Thank you, Haripriya.